that are dangerous. Did you know that right now in this room there's invisible things, you can't see them, that could lead to disease if you're not careful? Did you know that? Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid, because they are germs. Now, if I'd said that 100 or 200 years ago, people would be shuddering. Where are they? What is this? Oh, it's just esoteric talk. Couldn't be real. But your science made it real. When you got the instruments that could see them, then you could control it. Do you see where I'm going with this? Dear ones, it is your legacy to come to the place where your science, your physics, your knowledge starts to align with the confluence of the wisdom of consciousness, and you will get invention. And there will be inventions that is going to help humanity in general. Not just to communicate as you have now with your smartphones and your computers. These are inventions that are going to give you water, that are going to save your life, that are going to grow things, that are going to make you understand about population growth. You'll look back someday and say, we were a foolish earth that didn't know anything about anything. It's amazing we survived. And it's going to be through that which is intuitive invention. I'm telling you this because of what's coming. It leads me to talk about human consciousness. What do you think it is? And you'll say, well, it's thinking. It's the way people think. You might say, consciousness is the description of the paradigm of thinking. What will happen when there are instruments that can see it? Kryon, do you mean that it's seeable? Oh yeah, it's physics. And maybe this has been an example. Is it possible that human consciousness together would have the power to change a computer, to set off an alarm, to change electronics, all of that? And the answer is yes. So if that's possible and consciousness can be measured and have power, as the experiments have shown on the planet and as the satellites picked it up, it should be something you can see. And you can, with the right equipment. It's coming. What I want to do is reveal something I've never revealed before, and that is what it's going to look like. Now, we've established that physics, that is quantum, when revealed, will have patterns. It's no surprise. What do you think the patterns might look like if you could see a consciousness of a person? Now, this is an individual consciousness. And that is physical, has a field, seeable, measurable, and has patterning. You think this is too far-fetched? We've established the fact that it's real, it has power. You ought to be able to measure it and see it someday. It ought to pattern itself. What will they look like? I'll give you two examples. The two greatest human consciousness energy producers are fear and hatred, compassion and love. On both ends of the spectrum, they're powerful, extremely powerful. They can set off alarms. They can crash your computer. They can soften your heart. They can affect your chemistry. And they can do it from across the room. Have you ever sat in a room where somebody was angry and you knew it? It's palatable. You can feel it. You don't want to stay there. You'd like to leave. They're angry. You say, well, there's a dark cloud here. You are sensing energy, and all energy is patterning. All energy anywhere in the universe has ways of being measured and seen, and you can bring it into 3D, study it, and see the patterns. Those who have sat in the room with the great masters of this planet have felt the overwhelming love and compassion of the creative source. And it comes in waves of euphoria. It makes you weep in joy, because you're connected to everything. That's energy. You see what I'm saying? Can you measure love? You should be able to. It's patterned. You can see it. This is fascinating to me. I'll show you what the patterns are. Now, these are predictions because it's coming. There'll come a day when these are able to be seen. When they are, human consciousness, when it's patterned, when it's available, when it's studied, you're going to see something very interesting. The patterns I'm going to give you right now will be validated when it occurs. And this channel is yet heard again. This is what you're going to see. Let's talk about that which is the lowest energy first, but very powerful. Understand that low consciousness carries incredible power. So does high. So the low and the high is not a measure of its effective power. It's only a measure of the vibration of its consciousness, of its thought, of where it can go or where it can't go, or how restricted and expansive it is. Power, that is force, is very profound. You already know that. The power of hate, the power of that which is evil, very strong. The power of fear can enslave nations if you're not careful. You know of its power. Let's talk about that pattern it will create on an instrument to come, measuring it in an individual who has that attribute. It's going to be the simplest pattern of all. It's going to emanate a strong circle, a confluence of energy that's going to come together, and it's going to make a barrier. It's going to appear to be a circle around the individual or the energy of the consciousness the individual is creating. The circle is a prison. It holds itself within itself, and it will not be aware of anything outside its own circle. The strength comes from the fact that it's so powerful that others may have the same circle. The circle then can come wider and greater in its entrapment of consciousness around it, creating a bigger circle, but only one. Now you think perhaps I'm talking in language you don't understand. You will. But here's the point. It's simple. It's a box that is a circle. It cannot see out of itself. It only sees itself. It knows of its own evil, its low consciousness, its agenda, and sees nothing else. The circle can enslave those who are thinking the same. It can become a larger circle, but can never get out of itself. It cannot see beyond what it knows. There is no patterning outside of the circle that belongs to the circle. It's restrictive. It'll be profoundly obvious, simple, low vibratory, basic survival. Now let's talk about the other one. Here is a consciousness of compassion, love, high-minded thinking, integrity. What does it look like? Stand by, because I cannot give it all to you. It creates fractals. It creates a confluence of energy that creates more of itself in the way of harmonics of itself that emanate outward, capturing that which is around it, enhancing that which is around it, in a never-ending cycle. It's expansive, it's catchy, it's structured, it's complex. And the harmonics it creates vibrates way beyond itself. It has an influence everywhere. So you go to the most simple to the most complex. What do you see is the real difference in the patterns? One is restrictive, powerful. The other one is expansive, powerful. Up to this point, dear ones, on this planet, human consciousness has tended to circle itself in the lowest vibration possible. Hatred, war, argumentative rudeness, unkindness, because it was survival. This is the way humans survive. Country against country, that's what you got. Human to human, that's what you got. And the circle that pattern created was one that the consciousness could not expand from. So all it did was repeat itself, repeat itself, repeat itself. There was no harmonics to send out. There was no expansiveness. There was no growth. Suddenly, the energy on this planet is going to change the patterns. Because the pattern of consciousness lays in the things which are the magnetic grid, the place you are in space. All these are changing, and it's going to modify the patterns of both of these things. And it's going to make the one that is the most complex with fractals far more powerful than the basic survival one. It's time to grow up. And human consciousness will evolve, and no longer will there be a scale like the scale of justice, because the evil would then measure that which is good or bad. Because that which is powerful will be that which is compassionate. Way, way more powerful and overweighing the simplisticness of the evil on the planet. I want to give you proof, yet again, of something so unusual. The first channel of the year, I talked about the North Korean leader. I'm going to do it again. I'm going to do it again as an example of this, that low consciousness, darkness cannot see above itself. As powerful, as smart, as intellectual as it thinks it is, it can't get out of its own circle. The young man, when his father died, was an egotist. He was born and developed, watched his father, knew he would take over, inherited that which was self-important, egotist to the max. And when he took power, he had choice. And it never occurred to him that if he took the high road, he could be the most famous, the most beloved leader on earth. All of his life. All he had to do was to think beyond his circle. He was in the position to do something amazing. Unify the North and the South of Korea, drop the demarcation zone, bring families together, stop programs that would then give his people abundance, food for all, joy on the planet, peace. He could be the most important, the most beloved person on the planet. The United Nations would bow before him and applaud and stand. Every time he went to and from, he would have his ego stroked and stroked and stroked and stroked. The best of the best. And it never occurred to him. Instead, he perpetuated the box.